Hi, this is Courtney McShane from Pivotal. I'm here with Seffi Yaaran, and I'm so honored to have him at Dell Tech World this year. I work for the Dell Tech Synergy team as a part of Pivotal, and we work very closely to design joint products between the Dell Tech brands and Pivotal, which has been, a really fantastic opportunity. So today we're going to talk about T-Mobile and their evolution from IaaS to PaaS to CaaS and the future of that. And it's actually it's been a really interesting talk for many people here because Seffi brings the developer experience. And having that perspective at a conference like Dell Tech World is really cool and unique. So T-Mobile has worked with Pivotal over the last couple of years, and before we started working together, it took T-Mobile 7 months and 72 steps to change software. And scaling took months of planning. So our solution was to rebuild applications with Spring Boot and Spring Cloud. 100% of the traffic brought onto Pivotal Cloud Foundry, and that all happened in 3 months, which is really significant considering the amount of months it took to scale previously. And 5 applications today are running in production on PKS, and they have about 35,000 containers. So a lot has been accomplished that we're really proud of. But the results of that are really significant. First of all, same-day bug fixes with zero downtime, a 10% or 10x increase in new deployments, 40,000 application instances, which has nearly doubled in less than a year, 0 humans needing to intervene to scale, which is a stark contrast from where you started, 83% fewer incidents and incidents that are resolved now 67% faster, and then they have 1,800 developers that were supported by 11 platform operators, and that has since grown to now about 25 operators. So with any retail company, they can be perfectly fine through spikes, whether it be Black Friday or Valentine's Day. And T-Mobile is very similar to that, but their Black Friday and Valentine's Day is the iPhone launch. So a quote from Brendan I, Platform Engineering at T-Mobile is, "We had another great success. We survived the iPhone launch without major incident on our platform. All of our PCF applications didn't even break a sweat." So it's really, true. Yeah, it's very exciting. Pivotal transform how the world builds and runs software through platform tools, and methodology. James Waters, who is Senior Vice President of Products at Pivotal and just phenomenal asset to the company. He recently keynoted, what did he just recently keynote? Anyway, he's just fantastic. I think it was Kafka conference recently. And so he tweeted this out, and it's the evolution from old to new, going from projects to products, from waterfall to agile methodology. And, you can spend a lot of time on projects, but products are where you make money and you make a difference for the company and you're adding value every single day. Waterfall, the transition from waterfall to agile is a very intense culture change and a very hard shift, as T-Mobile has experienced. And at Pivotal, we abide by extreme programming. So our developers and our labs teams will pair, meaning we will sit down next to, let's just say, a T-Mobile developer and teach them how to program in an agile way. So it's really teaching our customers how to be fishermen and not just teaching them how to fish. We wouldn't just build an application for a company. We teach them how to build applications in a very quick, efficient, and fast way forever. Shifting from ITIL to CI/CD is just like you can automate everything that formerly took a lot of processes and steps in order to move through. Why would you provision your own VMs when that could all be taken care of on a cloud native platform? It's just unnecessary work. Going from Java EE, the former monolith, to Spring Boot, where you can download an application and 50% of it is already just there for you. And then moving from batch processing to Kafka streaming platform. And the best example of that would be Amazon. So if you're going to go purchase a book on Amazon at 8:32 in the morning, then seconds after you make that purchase, there's already recommendations for what you could purchase next that you might be interested in based on purchases that happened seconds prior. So real-time streaming analytics. It's a very significant shift from the way that traditional companies operate. So a couple of quotes I collected from T-Mobile employees. The first is, we only have 10 people operating a platform of that size where we used to have hundreds. This came from Chuck Nossman, VP of Digital Technology and Strategy at T-Mobile. Kudos to Pivotal and its dojos. Hands down, we would not be where we are today without them. And dojos are our lab processes where we teach developers how to code. That came from Melissa Chapman, former senior manager at T-Mobile. And my favorite quote came from none other than Seffi Yaaran, who we have here today. We met at a VMware PKS training in Bellevue, Washington, and just caught up in the elevator. And I was like, "Oh, who do you work for?" And he's like, "Oh, I work for T-Mobile." "Who do you work for?" And I said, "Oh, I work for Pivotal." And he looks at me and he says, "Pivotal changed my life." And so I am just so grateful to be able to say that I work for a company that not only changes the way businesses operate, but actually truly change lives within those companies. So I'm going to pass it on to the star to give you the overview of the transformation that T-Mobile has gone through.
Thank you for the compliment, Courtney.
Of course.
My name is Seffi Yaaran, and before I will say a few words about myself, I will say a few words about the company. T-Mobile, the third biggest operator in the United States, traded in the Nasdaq in New York. We are the Un-carrier. It's basically a marketing campaign that started in 2013 and actually continue until today. We operate with two central or main brands, T-Mobile, the postpaid one, and Metro by T-Mobile, which is a company Metro PCS, that we purchased a few years ago. Great merge, by the way, with us. And we have also a T-Mobile prepaid brand, and also wholesale offering that for companies that piggyback on our network. Few highlights from the most recent earning meeting we had last Friday with our CEO. So it's another successful addition of 1.7 million subscribers, 24 consecutive quarter with 1 million net additions, and this is the lowest ever churn percent, 0.88 for churn. We are now more than 80 million subscribers, and we are going aggressively towards the 5G technology in the broadband and in the cellular infrastructure nationwide. So, few things about myself. I'm 7+ years in T-Mobile as an architect in the frontline and the business experience organization. I live in Redmond, Washington. Mostly my job is to check new technologies in the market and bring them to my organization and spread them in the entire T-Mobile for the benefit of our development organization. And I love the T-Mobile spirit with John as our CEO, and the partnership with Pivotal is just amazing. And just my free time, I'm doing kayaking and also DJing. And no, I'm not Jeff Bezos. And people approach me all the time and ask me about this. I can say yes, sometimes yeah, I am.
Yeah, so for example, last night we were out with another customer of Pivotal, actually all Dell Tech, Raytheon, and we got a picture with Michael Dell, and the Raytheon customer, David Apple, sent the picture to his colleague. And she was like, wait, you're with Michael Dell and Jeff Bezos at the same time? And he was like, no, he's not Jeff Bezos. And she was like, yes, he is. He's absolutely Jeff Bezos. So, as a resident of Seattle, I'm sure it happens a whole lot.
Yeah. A few words about the transformation journey that we have in T-Mobile. So it's basically across the verticals in the company, business model, technology, architecture, processor, and so on. And I will mainly concentrate in the infrastructure evolution that we had since 2015, 2016. All this couldn't happen without the great support from our CIO, Cody Sanford, whether he inspire us and inspire his reported people to support this program, and the partnership with Pivotal. Without them, it couldn't happen. So we started, as I said, 2015 with just three people that start to maintain this platform and basically stand it up. And the results so far are really impressive. We managed to retire more than 2,000 physical servers and condense these applications in around 150 servers only. We managed to increase the resolution time 67%, basically MTTR, 67% just because the functionality narrowed down to small pieces of software, so we could reach to the problems really quick by also adding observability tools inside, because this is a price that you need to pay in order to not staying blind in the microservices world. Instead of delivering software features to the business in several months, sometimes we managed to push production changes daily. In regard to Pivotal installation in T-Mobile, we have two main applications now. PAS and PKS, and PAS basically appears first in 2016, available for our developer community. And basically it's managed by, the platform managed by very talented people. We started with 3, today we are 25, but not all of the 25 was managing the system. We have product managers, other engineers, admins that maintain, office hours and newsletters. So the team, it's very impressive for this big installation. So few people are managing the platform. So we started with 400 application instances back then in 2016, and now we have on PCF only PAS more than 40K containers with more than 2,000 distinct microservices, which is really impressive. And on top of this, there are other hosted services, data services that manage in the foundation. I can say about MySQL, RabbitMQ, Gemfire, and Redis. So PAS was the first one, and then on 2019 we added another product by Pivotal, the Pivotal Container Service, which is gradually gain adoption in the company, and we have a few clusters currently managed to transform their workloads to this platform, and we believe that this will be the main system eventually for our workloads.
So can you touch on why Pivotal changed your life?
Sure. When we first got the information from our CIO that there is a radical change that is going to be done in the company, and Pivotal was selected to be the main player, right, in this new future, it's immediately trigger curiosity, I would say.
Yeah.
And I started to investigate, and I went to PCF 101 training, one-day training, and I met first the foundation team and the pivotal engineers in this training, and I recall that the instructor just show us an example of how application, Java application, basically push to the platform, and whenever he has done this, I ask him, what really happened now? Where's the application? Where it's running? Where? In which server? He said, why do you care? I said, what do you mean?
Why does it matter? Why do you care?
Right. So
Isn't that nice?
So this was a pretty, I would say, revolutionized approach for me. That changed the basis of my past life, I would say, before Pivotal, and and all the features that come with it, auto scaling, abundant services, the ability to get endpoint fast and work in this way of so easy to develop and deploy my workloads on this platform.
So can you talk a little bit about what it is that enabled, or what it is that you look for when taking a platform and putting it onto, taking an application and putting it onto the platform? What are the criteria that you evaluate?
Okay, so on this, we will talk about this on other slides. So what I wanted to mention before this is the motives. Why basically we have the motivation.
Yeah, why do you want to transform in the first place?
Yes, that's the immediate question, right? First question. So I would say that there is evolution here, infrastructure perspective, from moving to platforms that will enable you to deploy faster, and give you more control or less control on your infrastructure and what you select to preserve in your end, and give to the platform to manage for you. So so basically, few motives to shift to the cloud. That came from basically from business ambitious, right? Response time, we wanted to dramatically reduce this to less than 2 seconds on this from the UI. Time to market, we dramatically wanted to improve this rather than deliver in 4 main versions a year, and individual and very incremental in between, to a daily fashion, right? Mm-hmm. And then we wanted to improve performance, which meet demand when there are promotions and events like Black Friday or in new iPhone engagements, and of course availability, no downtime during upgrades, and if one foundation fail because of any other issues, continue to serve customers, not keeping customers without service.
Absolutely.
So we managed to do this by transform to the microservice architecture on a new hardware. We managed to build automatic CI/CD and transform development teams to other structure that we will work in as agile rather than waterfall. We are able to running at scale now. The platform give you the option to whether it's PCF with with autoscaler or adding replica sets in Kubernetes. Yep. And of course, availability, you can achieve this in PCF using multiple foundations and proper load balancers in between the workloads and the installations. You want to ask something about this, or? No,
I would just love for you to cover the ability to be multi-cloud and the priority of T-Mobile to make sure that you have options.
Right. So your question is basically connected to the type of the abstractions that we have, right? And each one of them basically give you some kind of freedom and control, right? And the main things that in my opinion was great is the releasing of developers from messing with finding servers and finding network guys to take care of network routes and certificates and all of this. This was the great advantage of this. With that said, there are teams that from reason still would like to keep the old way of doing this, just because of the control of this, and not basically, let's say, work in a platform that other tenants could be bad tenants, right? Reside on this from a performance perspective, right?
Yeah. So on that, during our talk this morning, many of the attendees are infrastructure operators, and they work in the data center all day, every day, right? And so, the question to the audience was, how many of you in the room are working with developers to give them, endpoints and certificates and match them with servers? And there were at least 6 people in the room that said, yes, I work and do that all day, every day. And what's interesting is that in your world, that dependency has been completely eliminated.
Right. And so in T-Mobile, we have the infrastructure team that sit on the data centers or connect to the data centers and manage the hardware over there. And we have the platform team or the foundation team that manage all the, let's say, the PCF software that installed on top of the collection of these virtual machines that provided by the infrastructure. And on top of this, we have the development organization. So I am coming from the development organization, and for me, what I see is only, when I'm looking down, right. I see only the platform people, the foundation people, and they basically function as a proxy to these people. So I even don't know who the infrastructure people are. So this is something that's
fascinating to a lot of the people in the room. They just couldn't believe that was the case. And how do you manage that? How do you make sure it's secure? And how do you make sure you have enough servers to handle the capacity? It was very cool to see their brains working when you mentioned that.
Right. It's really revolutionized.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So with that said, what are the benefits to the business that we could achieve so far? So speed to market, DevOps teams able to get stories from the backlog and deliver them really fast, sometimes in a daily basis. We managed to increase application performance and reliability. And when I'm saying this, 43% of the entire activities from the UI basically met the 2 seconds requirements. We also managed to resolve 67% of the issues faster, and this is simply because we could narrow down the functionality into small pieces. So whenever you see problem over there, you know exactly where to go, rather than start to dig into endless logs in the monolith. So also we also increase development agility and efficiency. And the last point is regarding the workload consolidation, that we achieved more efficiency by consolidated the hardware and also save a lot of OpEx.
Yeah.
So this relates to your previous questions about.
So I jumped the gun a little bit, but figuring out what to manage and which platforms to run on, whether they get decoupled or refactored or rewritten. And so the next slide, I believe, was taking a lot of pictures was taken of it, because there's a lot of interest about what can you continue to manage and what can just be managed for you if you have a platform as a service offering like Pivotal Cloud Foundry.
Right. I think that it's, as it said here, you can decide basically what you need what you need to manage, right? If you would like to keep a lot of the control, as I mentioned, in your hand, taking care of the OS on the servers and the runtime and all the other layers. So use IIS. If you need your own cluster, you need to have your own cache data, and nobody else will disturb you and could create for your old cluster to go down. Yes, go to IIS. If you think about Dockerize containerize your application, then of course the CAS is the platform for you. Even though that PaaS also can run the Docker container, but it's not the recommended option. And a few words more about CAS is that with CAS, basically you are the owner. Why? Because you are basically can start from building the operating system in your image, and you have full control. Although you need to make sure that there are not vulnerabilities, from security perspective, take care of patches, and build your own image with the things that you think you need, without to be dependent on somebody else that will do this for you, like it happened in PaaS.
With control comes responsibility.
Right, exactly. So, with that said, you can see the decision, the deployment decision, which is in an opposite way of the evolution of the infrastructures, right? So we need to, as we recommend, to whenever you have a new functionality that you consider to build or refactor, just consider it from left to right and check. Is this functionality is a long-running process, or this is just a very short task with high spikes that might work in this way? If yes, choose fast, right? If no, check the next level and so on. So this is our recommendation to do.
Yep. So, Seffi, you did a ton of interviews to prepare for this presentation with the Kubernetes team, with the serverless team, with the Pivotal Cloud Foundry team, with the Kubernetes, who did I miss? The applications team. Right. And so each of those have applications that had benefited from Pivotal Cloud Foundry. I'll just give a high-level overview of each one. The first is retail store point of sale. So if you are a customer and you walk into a T-Mobile store, the point of sale is that method where they would purchase a product. A retail service platform, an internal application called Equipment Installation Plan, and Equipment Installment Plan, and Personal Coverage Check. So if you're with your family hiking in the forest and you want to see if T-Mobile covers that location, there is an online application to validate whether or not that specific area regionally will be covered by T-Mobile. And so in preparation, of course, I asked the question, did you talk to the infrastructure team? And the answer was no. Right. So why? Why was that?
Why? Because as I said, we don't need to. We don't have the necessity to talk to the infrastructure team. We have great, platform team, manage all our requirements, and if we need, release something outside of the platform, they also direct us what to do, who to go. But usually, these things usually manage inside the foundation, and when we have great team for this to do. So, regarding the testimonial, I talked to a few managers in our development organization, and as Courtney mentioned, point of sale. It's a monolith that used to work with Oracle WebLogic, and which basically forced us to lock us to Oracle, and that we no longer wanted, right? So we managed to buy Pivotal, also help to move it to Tomcat and get rid of this basically, and implement the separation of concern using the config server. And when I spoke with the development manager, he told me, I could run it on PCF, but I decided eventually to Dockerize it and run it on PKS. Eventually, after a few evolutions of our Kubernetes in T-Mobile, just because Docker is great, and I can run it in my laptop, and I can run it on any environment that I would like in the same way, just with small config changes that I need to do, which is what I selected to do. And yes, I'm not worried from patching and security that I need to do. I rather to do it myself rather than I count on somebody else that sometimes will take time. So this is legitimate and accepted, and this is currently work on PKS. So the next one is the retail service platform, and basically this was the first application that considered to move to PCF, because this is a backend system. It's not really customer impact, and from experience perspective, it's not really seen. It's behind the scene, right? And basically this happened in 2016, only when PCF was available and not other abstraction that time. And it was a big monolith with 400 activities inside, and they had to scale it up whenever there was promotion or other events with a lot of demand. So what they managed to see is that if they have, let's say, one SOAP operation for customer info, in a very, let's say, bad day of demand, it had to handle 12 million calls per day, and in order to prepare for such a demand, they have to work 7 months before, and procure servers and prepare the software to be scaled up. And don't forget, this is the monolith back then, not the refactor and the microservice that will come really after this. And as you know, the use of the mobile for purchasing, browsing the internet, it just increased every day, since 2016. So, and with the gush of promotions that T-Mobile offered to our customers, we couldn't keep up with the demand of scaling up. How much to scale? When? All these things really, we couldn't function in this new world, I would say. And the platforms that Pivotal provided us, and the way of delivering software using Spring Suite that owned by Pivotal as well, helped us to basically transform from this one to the new world. So what this team basically did is they selected one functionality, and they wanted to see how this will behave if they will remove it from the monolith and run it as a separate microservices using Spring Boot on PCF. So this work took them 3 months, and they managed to rebuild this microservice. This is basically usage microservices. Usage bring the information about what the customer basically did, or calls, and browsing, and they managed to rebuild it in Spring Boot. Then, because it was narrowed down to this functionality only for usage, any bugs could be found really easy. They gradually moved the traffic to PCF, and they watched the scaling whenever during promotion, and they released a lot of headaches from the DevOps team. After this successful experiment, they did it in the same manner to other functionality. As I mentioned, there were 4 other activities from this monolith, so they are gradually managed to do it. So in this journey, they managed to rearrange their development team in the two pizza suggestions for how many people max will be in the team. They basically deploy the application, do the blue-green and canary deployment, and increase the traffic gradually, incrementally, from 5 to 25 and more, and observe the scaled up of the instance whenever there is a new load or extra load on promotion, and other days, big days like Black Friday and so on. So
this one is my all-time favorite.
Okay.
So I'll just do a pre, and then you can provide all the details. So this equipment installation plan, this application internally, is my all-time favorite because the team had had waited until PKS was available and had all the functionality that they needed to then put their application on it. And they did 0 code change. They ripped this application out of its legacy environment, did 0 code change, and it worked. And when you reached back out to the team and said, how did you think this was even possible, and why did this work? The answer was, it's the magic mantra of Kubernetes. It was just such an interesting and cool story to be able to hear that's possible now.
Right, and if you think about it, if they could achieve, faster, improved 35% of the response time just to use Docker and use Kubernetes and use the hardware, improve the hardware that Kubernetes cluster relies on. What they can achieve when they will really refactor the application and improve it and do it right, it will be a tremendous improvement.
Right, 35% is it's incredible.
Yeah, this is a great achievement.
Yep.
And they can now enjoy from all what Kubernetes basically bring to the table in terms of auto-scaling, security, and routing. So.
Yep.
The last example is about the personal coverage check application. This application gives you the option to narrow down the area that you locate, where you work, where you live, where you're going to be or go to a vacation, and check the coverage that T-Mobile provide that area. And for this application, basically, we deploy this application on all our abstracts, on-prem and in AWS. You can see that there is a primary site with load balancer and a secondary one. All of them are basically from the app level. They are the traffic divided by global load balancer, and the traffic go to the cloud, public cloud in AWS, in the Kubernetes instance, and also on-prem on each site on PCF and PKS. So this is an example of hybrid deployment that utilize all our foundations. Any question? No? Yes?
Not on that, but yeah, I don't understand that there's, a lot of sometimes conflicts between the foundation team, the Pivotal Cloud Foundry Foundation team, and the developer team. How do you mitigate and work through those issues?
So I would admit that these guys from the platform team are great, and we like to work with them very much, and the communication is great. They offer office hours, every week for us to come, without a specific agenda. We can come and just complain, just say what is bothering us and what we expect from them to improve. For example, I can give you an example of how can we improve availability, right? How can we improve not stopping logging that go to Splunk. This is something that we noticed happen. So we would like to talk to them about this, and they are very open to this to do.
It's a fantastic collaborative approach.
Yeah,
sanity check, if nothing else.
Right, and you know, we have the conflicts that relate to you know, different goals. Their goals, of course, is to bring the, you know, the foundation to be in the healthiest you know, condition that they can, and not compromise anybody. Right.
Yeah.
They have to really be strict on the resources that they can expose to developers, and not to give somebody more than it should be. And they're also very, you know, helping us to, if we need customized build packs, but this sometimes can take time, and this is, and because of this, people say, okay, so we will not go to PCF, we will go to Kubernetes, right, to Docker. Platform availability, because of the maximum number of containers per foundation, we had to add more foundation, and this basically reflected up in the pipeline for the development organization, which caused it to a lot of you know, conversations. Pain conversation, okay, and on the data services side, this is there is an issue about, I would say, ownership, because some of the data services are managing in the platform foundation hardware, and other is basically managed by a different team, the data service team, under a different director outside of the foundation, and there is a endpoint that basically the application can point externally. So all these you know, conflicts are things that we have today in our life in T-Mobile. And just a quote that I would like to say, and it's related to high availability, is that the question is that you know, if developer come and say, okay, I need you know, the platform to be available for me 24 hours a day, and no matter what, even, you know, during upgrade, so the answer from the platform team will be that the platform will fail. It can fail, right? And the question is what you, as a developer, supposed to do about this. What you're going to do about it. And when you're coming with this approach, so as a developer, your approach become, you know, much more, I would say, proactive to make sure your application will be up and running no matter what, right?
Yeah, it pushes the responsibility back onto the developer team. And that's part of the cultural transition that Pivotal highly recommends embedding in your culture as a developer.
Right.
Which is great. It's great to hear you're implementing that on both sides of the fence.
Yep. So just to conclude this, we started on May 2016 with 3 people, great people that with the Inception goal of move application as fast as possible to Cloud Foundry, and show the people, you know, the value of this. We are now 25 people and supporting few foundations and other products from Pivotal offering, and since we are going to merge possibly under the government approval with Sprint soon, we will work in much larger scale that we ever seen in the company before. And with this infrastructure put in place, we expect that we will meet the demand. Of course, a lot of work ahead of us, and we are dealing with problems of or challenges, I would say, of building more foundation and how to manage multi-foundation, how to automate the automation. Okay, and so we will have to see how to deal with this, and I'm sure that along the years, when we transform a lot of application as well, we will find the right solutions, because I think that also other companies think about creative solution and how to resolve these new problems from this high scale,
no doubt,
situation. So just a few information, related information of where we are today. We have 9,500 application instances running today on PCF, and with a lot of organization and spaces. And we are dealing a lot with logs, a lot of logs going to Splunk today, and this is going to continue. And we are going to, so Splunk is part of the entire observability strategy that we have, and we are going to add on top of this more tools that will help us to observe our application on the platform. Few recommendations that we have to that we can basically share with other organizations that would like to transform to the cloud, as we do, is basically prior transforming Inception. It's recommended to establish a transformation unit with a backup budget, allocated budget that will resonate the shift across the organization in parallel to establishing the foundation. Training. We recommend to have to put in place a training for the developers, and not only a frontal training, also training that will come after the training in a way, in a form of on-the-job training, and we managed to do the first thing right so far with Pivotal, and this is going really great. And we are just before the continuation with the on-the-job training with Pivotal Labs. So partnership is growing, right? And and we managed to construct an architecture transformation team. Digital transformation team to basically build a few axioms that basically enforced on our architect whenever there is a new feature that added to the system. This axiom basically checking against the new architecture and enforced. We managed to build a few pipelines automation, and we're trying basically now to reduce it to one. Hopefully this will be successful. And we are moving to DevOps teams. One team that will have developers versus QA with architects, and be able to deploy fast on everyday basis. And we are trying now to move from I would say product paradigm to customer journeys. This is something that we are targeting to have teams that will have end-to-end knowledge and not unique knowledge in one place. So I think that this was the last slide, and you are of course welcome to apply to jobs in T-Mobile. We are hiring.
So at the end of our presentation today, I just thought it was very cool that Ola from Fiserv walked up and said, "I'm also a platform architect, and Pivotal also changed my life."
Yeah, that's what's
so
awesome.
It's just wonderful that you have all this exposure to work with people that are in your position in a totally different company that manage similar challenges.
Right.
I guess as a close, the last question I have for you is, what are you most excited about now that you have Pivotal established, you work in an agile way? The future of T-Mobile is vast, especially with the Sprint acquisition pending. So what are you really excited about?
So first, I'm excited to see what will happen with with PKS. Where this is going to bring us, and basically the ratio between what will happen with PAS versus PKS. And I'm very excited towards the Pivotal functional services that we'll hopefully announce this year, and experiments that plan to be done on using Knatives and also service mesh on top of the platform. So I'm really excited to use this new technology, and
there's a big future ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It is an honor to have you here. Appreciate the story.